Welcome to Launch Your Private Podcast. This week, we're joined by Marissa Axell, the founder and CEO of Action Fitness and Coaching, LLC. She has a bold mission to turn 1,000 women over 40 into badass cyclists. And her approach is anything but ordinary. Through her Cycling Essentials Academy and personalized coaching, she unlocks the secrets to success on the saddle. In this episode, we'll hear about Marissa's unique approach to empowering women through cycling and learn about her strategic use of private podcasting as a tool to enhance training, community engagement, and of course, overall success for her business. So whether you're eager to discover Marissa Axell's secrets on using private podcasts to engage and grow your audience with Facebook ads, or you're just looking for some inspiration from her journey of empowering women over 40 through cycling, this episode has it all. We talk all about transforming your life's passion into a business, the purpose of strategic content creation, and how you can use private podcasts to build community that thrives on motivation. It's a great episode with an amazing business owner. I think you're going to love this one. Enjoy, everyone. All right, everybody, welcome back for another case study episode. Today we have Marissa Axell. You're going to love this one. We probably have two types of podcasts to talk about today. And she basically coaches athletes, right? She does cycling. She coaches in cycling, which, again, super active sport that you have to be doing something. So that concept really fits with private podcasting. So we're going to hear behind the scenes of a lead magnet, an audio lead magnet she created that, guys, she's running ads to, which that is always stumping some of our folks. And so this will be a great conversation. Marissa, we're super excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay. So let's start at the beginning. How did you hear about private podcasting and weave into that kind of your business model and where you kind of saw it fitting when you were like, yep, that's what I want to start to offer my people?
Oh my gosh. So private podcasting, I probably first heard about it 4 years ago, but recently, I should say 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. It's COVID time is all
right
running together, right?
Weird. Yeah.
Yeah. But it started my business right before COVID started. So I was really into learning more about business. And one of my favorite kind of providers that I found had a private podcast. So of course I signed up, binged the whole thing, even went to her YouTube and binged those, and then was like pre-sold, ready to join her program. So that was my first introduction to how private podcasts can help you in your business. And then I want to say before I go into my business, I want to say the other reason I love podcasting was actually kind of it was one of those moments where it was like a gut punch. And one of my favorite public podcasters that I listened to suddenly passed away. And I have never been so sad for a person I've never met in real life. Like I felt like I lost a friend because I listened to them for years, every week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, but they just passed away like people do out of nowhere. But I was like that moment where I realized I was really sad. I was like, wow, I've never met this person, but they've been in my ears for 3 years, 2 years, whatever it was. And that's how much podcasting can really affect a person, right? So then I was like, there is something to this and I need to get on board. So those two were just like, I am so excited to start it. But then of course I was like, I'm scared, as we all kind of are when we start new things. So in my business model, we are a cycling coaching business, and I specifically help women over 40, helping them become badass cyclists. So I am out there trying to differentiate myself, number one, from a lot of noise, because there's, as in any industry, but especially fitness, there's a lot of noise and bad information. And then two, besides the noise, I want to also differentiate myself from the other cycling coaches out there. And I gotta be honest, nobody has a private podcast, number one. And number two, very few people are just talking to women over 40. And so those are my ins. I don't have I have a lot of cycling coaching, I would say competitors. A lot of us are out there, but there's not that many women. So that is, first of all, makes this a little different. And then second of all, I'm just shouting from the rooftops about how you don't have to give up cycling. You can just tweak a few things here and there, and here's what to do. So that was how I really got into my niche or who I serve. But I was doing years of master classes, and honestly, I ran into the same people showing up to my masterclass for free. So I call them tire kickers. Sorry. And then two, it was like in early COVID, hundreds of people would sign up and 100 would show up. And then by the end, after 2.5 years, 100 people would sign up and 20 people would show up. And I was like, I'm not getting in front of the right people, even though my messaging was still compelling. People were like, yes, I need to know this, even though there was, I don't know, I think people just got burned out on video and like appointment
Mhm.
video, especially. And then they're like, oh, I'll
Mm.
watch the replay. And then they never did. So that I just got frustrated. And then I was like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. So I kind of threw a tantrum. But you know what I didn't do? I didn't do anything. So I all of a sudden had no leads coming in. And that was the disaster moment for in Big Aha. So that was last summer, maybe June, I think, of 2023. And I was like, I'm getting serious. I'm doing this podcast. One of your former and one of my friends in common, Angie Jordan, I've taken a lot of her information and I've worked with
She's
her.
great.
I know. And so she really gave me the not motivation, but like the confidence to just
Mm.
get in my closet, record on the floor with my laptop and my phone. And I think I said about 2 hours of writing the scripts. And you guys, I had 2 years of master classes. So I knew what I wanted to say, right? But it's different in a podcast. So I probably spent 2 or 3 hours writing my scripts and I created, and I think it was like 7, but it might have been 8 episodes, short, 5 to 10 minutes long. And most of it was explaining like, here's your problems. Here's what you want to do. Here's what you need to stop doing. Here's what we do. I took 3 episodes to walk through my framework. And then the last episode was really, my sales episode. So that's how I started.
I love it. I love
cool.
it.
It's a winning formula. It's
Yep.
awesome. And then from what I understand is that you had this asset now and that I think you were heading on vacation. And I think you put like a $10 ad spend down and then just went on vacation and kind of didn't think about it. And what happened when you got back?
I had about 300 leads and I didn't know what to do with them. So
That's awesome.
I left and I thought it was September, but it was actually October. So October 1 to now, I've probably brought in between 500 and 600 leads of women who are
Wow.
interested. And from there, basically I came back from vacation and was full of motivation and realized I had all these leads to follow up with. So of course they received my getting to know you email sequence and they started getting my emails. And I got to say, it really struck a chord so I'm looking at my dates. It was November and then December, and then January. So I've had now 3 new folks listen to the podcast and then sign up for coaching within 10 days of being a
Wow.
stranger to like signing up. So to me, that was like, okay, we're on to something. Like there is a
Mhm.
need. And there are a lot of women out there who him and Hod sit on the fence, but podcasters, people who listen to podcasts
Mm.
they're taking that extra, step, I guess, because they're also listening, right? They're ready for action. What am I trying to say? It's not you just show up and listen. Like you have to go find the podcast and download it and listen to it. So they're a little bit more of an active lead, I guess I would say. And so that it was right around this month alone, we brought in 268 leads and
Nice.
several people have purchased. I did the tripwire. So several people have just gone ahead and on the thank you page purchased already a program. So now they're listening to me in their ears and they're actually doing what I'm talking about through the program. And so it's, I'm weaving it in here and there. But what I know from myself listening to podcasts is I really want to hear and get to know and trust almost like they're my friend, right? And then if they can come to a free class. So I just did this month a goal setting class where they get to be in front of me and ask me questions. And then we talk about the programming that would be good for them and we sign them up. So I was going to take you through that. Can I just jump into it really
Yeah,
fast?
go.
Yes.
Keep going.
All
Yeah.
right. I listened to your podcast. It was probably 10 episodes ago. One of your guests did something brilliant. And I was like, I got to do this. So she did a pop-up podcast for a wait list. And so I was at that time, I already had a wait list for a program I know I wanted to do, but I had been sitting on it because it's a lot of moving parts. So I wanted to make sure I could deliver it before I was like, here you go. So I was like, that is brilliant. So I went ahead and got in my closet and I've recorded 3 episodes. One was really an episode about like pumping them up, like you're in the right place. This is for you. Here's the results you could get in a story form. And then the second one was like, stop doing this, start doing that. And then the third one was really all about the program. So that by the time that they listened to that, I offered anyone who listened to it, come to this class for free. And it was a cool goal setting session where I wanted to do my goals. So I needed accountability. And I got like 12 people in the room with me and we were doing our goals together. And then at the end, I just said, hey, we have this program. I think it'd be perfect for these people. It's not for you if you're this kind of person. And I invited people to join. And so we had one person join right away and then 5 people. So remember, I had 12 people on the call. So it's 6 people, half the people were just like, I'm in. And the issue is they're already in a program of mine. So as soon as that ends, they're into this new program. So that, again, I was like, I'm on to something here. So this whole year, my whole goal is stop doing all the things, just do what's working. And I'm kind of testing all of these little ideas out. So that one to me is a big like, let's try this again and see if we can get, just amplify a few more people in the room, a few more people join the program.
Yeah,
I
definitely
love
run the
this.
numbers, run the conversion rates. That's really cool. So the episode she's talking about, for those of you guys who are curious, it's Emily Reagan's episode, which was one of the first ones. And I remember Sage was like messaging me, like, there's a client I have that's using this in a really cool way. And so I didn't know her. And so I was actually introduced to her through someone else that I know. And I was like, yeah, we've never had anyone like explicitly do a podcast like that. So that concept of the waitlist kind of launch, you have people that have already raised your hand. They're waiting for whatever the next step is. What a cool way to give them kind of an exclusive, a reason to be on the wait list. I know Emily talked about that. So if you're curious about that episode, we'll definitely link it below. She goes into more of those details. But I love that. I'll definitely message Emily after this and say that she's inspiring people to do that. So super cool. So what I'm hearing too is this concept of you're like, you know what? Right, recording a private podcast is actually really easy. And people like connecting with me. So not only did you use it to generate leads, but then you used it to nurture folks and kind of convince them and make them excited to come to a free thing that you're doing that had the pitch. So you weren't even necessarily, you're prepping them. They know that there's a course. They're probably expecting a pitch, which I think is really important too. That means that those folks that showed up were like pretty pre-sold on what you were doing. And so yeah, so that like double whammy strategy, all private podcasts versus having people, who don't know you try to sign up for masterclass or like any other kind of strategy. It sounds to me that audio piece is really working for you for sure.
It is. And I have to say, it's such a helpful differentiator from every other coach out there. So a lot of coaches have, first of all, male, no offense. I mean, they're great male coaches, but it's just like a male dominated sport right now. Even though there's a lot of women in it, they're not in leadership positions. And so there's not that many women doing podcasts or even public or private. And so I literally, like 2 months ago, I was like, I don't want to listen to another dude talk about training. I want to listen to the women talking about training. There's really only one podcast right now that does that. And they're not just cycling focused. They're women over 40 or over menopause focused, which is awesome. But it's the only one, right? So there's space. But I know personally that once you start a public podcast, there's a lot like that needs to be, I don't have enough space in my strategy right now to support a public podcast. And so I really wanted to use my time as wisely as possible. And I am blown away with, again, 2 hours of writing this script, maybe 2 hours of recording, putting it all together, and then dropping it into Hello Audio, which was the easiest thing ever. And then just dropping it like an album and going on vacation. I can't explain, like, for the amount of time and energy and knowledge that I needed to get it done, it is paying off in spades. So yeah, pretty
it's
awesome.
one of those things you can record once and it keeps doing the job, right? We love
I'm
that.
obsessed with it. Yes. And anyway, yeah, I just love that you can just listen to this podcast because you're struggling with how to get up hills faster. And if you listen to all 6 episodes, you have at least 3 tactics you could try on your own. And if you're like, dang, she knows what she's talking about, I'm going to sign up with this next program that she's got. Like, I'm just blown away by how that's working. So thank you.
I love this. This is so awesome. And I guess talk to me, because this is new, right? Most people aren't necessarily super familiar with private podcasts. How have your listeners responded? they're downloading, and that looks like you're paying attention. You've been watching your super listener score. So you can see that people are binging, right? The content, because the faster they go through your content, the higher just lead scoring, right? The higher that score is. So it sounds like once they get into it, they're loving it. But have they said anything? Have you gotten specific feedback to let them know how they're experiencing a private pipe?
Yeah. So just some numbers here. I love numbers. I've had 1,136 listeners since October 1. So that's huge because that's more than attended all my master classes in 3 years. So
Wow.
awesome. So we just have a bigger
Yeah.
reach. And that's probably partially due to like a great ad in Meta, right? But then also we've got, like you said, super listeners. I can target them. All of my current clients and just again, like I talked about recently, some new clients coming in, they've all listened. So they're all actively engaging with the private podcast. And that doesn't mean that all my super listeners are clients yet, but that tells me that they're going to be the hottest to talk to. So I'm actively like changing what do I say, my outreach to really make sure that I'm checking in with that list every week to make sure if there is a super listener that listened this week, I get in touch as soon as possible. And
Mhm.
then, so the people who are talking about the podcast, I get a lot of great comments in our private Facebook group about, yeah, I listened to this and I adjusted that. And oh my gosh, I'm recovering. I'm not even sore anymore. For example, because we talk about, I don't teach a lot on there, but I want to make sure people have a little something like to demonstrate, like we do know what we're talking about. And we do use these in our own life. Like I don't just sit here from a high pedestal and tell you what to do. Like I'm actively doing it with you. So I talk about what it's like when you don't eat enough fuel and you're riding up hills. Most people just think they're not fit, but they're actually just not fueling enough. And so their body is
Mm.
on fumes, right? But it feels the same as not being fit. So giving these people who are really searching for answers a little crumb, leading them to the next, action they could take. And really, again, it's attracting more action takers, which is just finally like, I feels like I've unlocked a little bit of something there. The people who are on my wait list to listen to the pop-up podcast, which was different than the private one that I ran ads to, those folks were just like, when they got in the room together, like, I'm so glad I got this. I mean, it was so short. It was so effective. It was 3 episodes. And just that, I think the appreciation that they can do it whenever they want to. So they could do it while they're riding their bikes indoors, or they could do it while they're driving, or, all of those they can do it wherever they are at, was really helpful. So they liked having me in their ears. I get a lot of too, I hear you in my head saying, stomp those pedals up that hill, or like accelerate here. Those little bits, tips and triggers that they are taking away as little, nuggets of information or inspiration when they're out on their bikes is really gratifying because they're listening. And I love when people say, I hear you in my ears. And I know that, I think we all know that people, what is it, like 3% of people are ready to buy today, but the other 97 takes some time, some 2 years. So I'm really thinking that this way of private podcasting is just really helping keeping us front and center so that when they are ready to purchase, or they're doing a big trip abroad and they want to be as fit as possible, that they're ready
Mm.
to then be like, oh yeah, I listened to that podcast. Let me go find her information and sign up. And I will say also, people are um, creating community around it. Like again, they've listened to the podcast and then they'll head out into our Facebook community and they'll be like, she talked about doing this Jumpstart program. I'm doing it. Are you doing it? And we had so many people asking about it that I launched in 2024. Just the first full week, I was like, let's do a Jumpstart week where everyone starts it on together. So again, another way to create community without being together in person. And we had, I don't know, 30 people start it. It's just a great way to like launch 2024. Everyone's like, new year, new you kind of, vibe. And so they all got to do something together, even though they're not physically together. So it's a fun way, again, to just, we talk about the Jumpstart in the private podcast. And so I encourage people to download it. It's our $9, I would call it freebie, but it's $9 now. And people can get a taste of what it's like to get some success in 3 weeks. And so, yeah, it's been a really, I guess in some, a community aggregator, a fun way to get them to hear me in their head. And I think down the road, it's going to start to pay off even more. But it's only been 3 months,
Mm.
4 months since I launched it. So we'll see. I'm going to
That's
keep collecting
awesome.
data.
Yeah.
But the
Can you tell us a little
results.
bit?
Oh.
Yeah, it's great results. Can you tell us a little bit about the ads, maybe? Just because I know some people are curious. Obviously, your niche is different, but maybe some of the tips or strategies that you found that have been working for running ads directly to a private podcast.
Sure. I'm going to contrast it against the masterclass. So I started
Sure.
running ads. I mean, when I started doing masterclasses in like 2021 or 2020, 2020, 2021. And it's basically some copy, 1 or 2 pictures. Now I have like 10 pictures because you can do a carousel. And then that's it. So I run 2 ads, the same version of 2 ads, one to a cold audience and one to a warmer audience of people who are already in my realm. And then I set up $10 per audience. So it's $20-ish per day. So that evens out to almost $500 a month, which I felt comfortable with. Like, I feel like that's probably a little less than I was spending on my masterclass in terms of ads. That was how I started it. And then I let it go and didn't look at it for 3 weeks, and then came back and was like, you guys, I'm getting leads for less than $2 a lead. Whereas at masterclass, it was
Whoa.
like $6 a
Oh,
lead,
yeah.
$8 a lead
Yeah.
by the end. At the beginning, it was less, but I've also learned that like Meta has moods, right? So some weeks it's more and some weeks it's less. But honestly, consistently, there were weeks where I was getting like $1 a lead. And there were weeks where it's now really stabilized at about $1.75 to $2 a lead. So it's brought in 268 people this month so far. For January. And then that was my goal, was to get in 100 to 200 leads each month with some evergreen content so that it was less work for me and Meta was just using its thing. And you probably know that like my demographic of women were mostly on Facebook and Instagram. And that's where a lot of my folks are seeing my ads. My favorite story recently was, again, this was a client who went from stranger to signing up within 10 days. So she was on a plane and was like, saw my ad come through, clicked on it. And then they're like, doors are closing, turn it on to airplane mode. She's like, no, you got to wait. Like, I got to get through this. So she got the download and listened to it on the plane ride home. And then by then, she got in the Facebook group, asked one question, and then got on a call. That's the way I would love it to work. Right. But
Yep.
that
And if that was a master class, that would not have happened on a plane.
No, not at all. Not
No.
at all. And she was feeling a specific situation. And so we are working on it. It's really exciting to see the growth within just a month. It's really exciting.
That is super exciting.
Yeah, that was my goal, was like a super low daily, rate to pay and see what I can bring in. And because remember, I'd had this big mistake 6 months ago where I turned all my leads off and just didn't do anything and my business really stalled. That was it. And I ran it to the podcast. There's 10 pictures. People click on it. They download the podcast through a little robot interaction between Hello Audio and ConvertKit. So thank you. And the rest is history. I think now I'm just refining from all of those leads that are coming in. There's a certain percentage of people who have signed up but then not listened. So I'm trying to refine, like, how do I get them more on board? But yeah, so you're like, the Hello Audio interface where I can just go in and re-email people every week. I just do it within a certain date range of, you signed up in the last 3 months. I'm going to be like, hey, don't forget you signed up for this. Please sign up. Listen. And right now, especially, is the season where cyclists are looking for programs. So that just super helpful. And I can sort my list by super listeners. I can sort them by date. I just love it. And then because your amazing Black Friday, I upgraded. And now I can do all the automations, which I didn't know I needed until I got them. And now I'm never going back. So that was brilliant. And now I can automatically tag all my new listeners as super listeners if they're super listeners. And then I can just engage with them, sending them specific email sequences. So that's my next thing that I'm working on.
Whoa, Marissa is getting ninja.
I'm super excited about them. And thanks to you, because
this might be a
your
game
product
changer.
your product is a game changer. I love using it. I love how easy it is. And I just also love that it connects with Descript, which I've just honestly, in that pop-up podcast is the first time I ever used it. And Descript is super easy. And it just immediately, you upload it straight into Hello Audio. So there's none of this fussing. It's just done. I love it. Thank you for making it so easy for someone to just literally talk, record, and be done.
I like that. Just be done. That's kind of
Just
the
be
thing.
done.
Yeah. That's our,
That is
we
another
like
thing.
that.
It's just
that is
easier.
kind of like, yeah, just be done. Being business owners, I think it's important to us. Like we know that not everyone has the time, capacity, or desire to deal with tech or deal with another thing. And so it's awesome to hear that you find it as easy as we say it is. Because, it's easy to
Sometimes we're
say
like,
it's
are we just
easy.
lying? Yeah, yeah.
Like, we think
We
it's
just like
easy,
hearing
but
ourselves talk.
no.
Yeah.
But it is. It's awesome. And I love the fact that in this niche, which, I think there's a lot of folks that are listening to this too, that are maybe just starting their journey and they're just starting to build an audience and they're not really sure how many people are out there. And then, hearing your success stories, really, it's inspiring. I mean, hundreds of leads when you're going on vacation. You just kind of set it and forget it because you know your people and, you're targeting exactly what they need and you're tapped into the types of problems. You're leading with empathy, right? You're demonstrating not only that you understand what they're going through, but also your ability to help them through the different techniques. As you're saying, go faster up the hill. I'm thinking, just get up the hill. I don't like,
Yeah,
whew, like, where's that come? I need that podcast episode. Just get
I
up,
love it.
just, not go backward or fall down. But like, I think it's amazing that you're able to generate now. I think you're probably ready to take off on the next trajectory as you're using different follow up sequences. And I'm assuming at some point your business is a little seasonal as it warms up, and there's no ice or things on the ground. Like people are going to start to be like, oh, yeah, I can go outside. Like my husband's a runner and he's like, it's actually going to be 50 and the sun's out. I'm going to go run outside. Right. And now he's looking for training programs. So I assume, as the weather and things shift, and now with your ability to reactivate leads and really follow up, you're going to see even more results. So I'm excited for the follow up episode to this too, because I
Yeah.
Yeah,
think we're going to
Right.
hear
A
even
year
more.
from now.
right. I love that. I love that.
I'm sorry. I also was going to say too, I can't wait for your public podcast that I can tell is coming at some point
Someday.
in this. Yeah. But it's cool because you're now the second person actually today in our bulk recording, but just in general, people going the private podcast route first, knowing that that is actually easier. It's more likely to generate sales. It's less of a upkeep situation, if you will. But then now that you have all these leads, they would probably tune into a public podcast. So now you don't have to worry as much about starting from 1 download or 10 downloads a week. You can, hit them hard with the good public podcast and get downloads right away. And that'll come in time, right? Once you kind of figure out this engine that you're building and this, the lead engine you're building. But because it sounds like your podcast is needed is also what I wanted to say based on just like what's out there right now. So, you're hitting it in the way that we would advise people to. And so I just wanted to point that out too.
I love that. I was going to say too, when we did the recording for the original lead magnet, I just, so everyone knows how I did it in the afternoon, right? I recorded for 2 hours. I wrote my script for 2 hours and then I uploaded everything. I think it took about an hour total. And that was also including writing my, universal footer and the notes into the podcast thing. And then I just organically promoted it. I think I listened or did one of your programs about like using a podcast as a lead something like that, and attracting with audio, I think is what it's called. And so I was trying to remember all the things that Nora was like, use it here, use it there. So I did. I emailed my list, of course, my Facebook groups, the social media. I have it in our website header, the bottom of my email signature, all of our super signatures. It's my main focus right now to get people in, and
listen.
it's
Yeah.
really helping.
So you're a few months in, having great success. If you could talk to that person on October 1st, or maybe the day before, September 30th, the 30th or 31st, 30th, what advice would you give to somebody kind of launching that first private podcast and taking that leap? Because it's scary, no matter what you do in business, doing a new thing for sure. But what advice would you give to somebody looking to launch their first one?
I wish you would know how impactful it will be. If I would have known it would be this impactful, I really would have started earlier. And I'm mad that I didn't, of course. I might have got over myself and started earlier. But there's well, I don't have the right equipment and I don't know what to say or how to say it. And it feels like a lot of work. But honestly, if you knew how impactful your voice is going to be to other people who need you, you would have done it earlier. And the technology is really easy to use. So there's no need to be scared. And I will say, I had to ask for, search your help once or twice for how do I connect ConvertKit to Hello Audio, for example. And everything is so darn simple to follow online. So anytime you feel like you're not very savvy, they have amazing help videos that break it down one step at a time. You can easily follow it. And it was done. I literally was like, how did I do that? It's already done. Okay, cool. And moved on. So again, I think going back, I wish I would have said how impactful it was going to be looking back. So yeah, start now. Don't wait.
I like the way you phrase that because I think a lot of people, oh, I didn't realize how easy it was going to be. Is this, but you're like, you're really thinking about the listener, right? You're really thinking about your community that you're making this for. And that's always like the best place to start as a marketer.
Yeah.
And so I like the way that you framed that because, yeah, the best day to start, right, was yesterday. And then the next one is today,
Yeah.
right? That's the other way to talk about it. But the way you kind of said it is to me more powerful because thinking about why we're doing this and like the people that we know that we're helping and like you've been coaching for a while so you do know the women that you help and you're just like how can I help more, right? How can I
Yeah.
get more people the results that I've gotten others? And so taking that step and not overthinking it and just giving it a shot, I think is really everything in business in general, is at least what I've learned over the years. It's just like the faster you can get it out there, the faster you find out lessons, even if it doesn't work and the success isn't as great as yours right away. What tweaks can you make? What could it look like? What could you change, in order to get more signups and all of that? I appreciate
Exactly.
that advice. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And I was going to follow that up with I'm now trying to actively add audio in all of my programs. It's literally just a matter of sit down and get it done. I know
Do
how to
it.
do it. It's more of just
Yeah.
like I need to schedule it. But all of my
Totally.
cycling people, once you sign up, you get a resource library, and I'm slowly bringing all of that into audio because as a client who goes to other programs, I totally listen to the audio at least once, if not twice, to get the gems rather than go to the computer, which I know you talk about all the time, but
Yeah.
that's how I work.
Mm.
It is so helpful. And now I want that for my clients so they can listen when they're on their ride or when they're indoors doing a workout or anytime that helps for them, because then they're more likely to actually listen and learn. Like like I alluded to earlier, when you've been training for years and suddenly you're just starting to notice your body doesn't feel like normal anymore, but there are things you can tweak. But if you're not, you know, pr- prioritizing the time to sit down and watch a video for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and do a worksheet, then you're not going to get that information. So I'm really trying to encourage more people to listen to it, to get the information, to apply it to their life so they can continue to see success on their rides and not give up whatever or have to. Everybody's right now talking about, oh, I have to get an e-bike. And I'm like, first of all, e-bikes are really fun. So don't knock the e-bike. And second of all, if you just tweak things a little bit, you won't have to. So I really appreciate, again, having upgraded. I can now do all of my audio, into all of my different feeds. So I'm really excited about that and helping I like to say I'm on a mission to like disseminate I guess get rid of all of the terrible cycling advice out there that people take as fact and truth when really it's terrible tradition. So, right.
Well, especially if there's a whole bunch of old white guys telling everybody what to do.
100%. But then also, like, this sport is based on tradition. Well, it worked for, so-and-so 100 years ago, so we have to keep it that way. I'm like, that is just not the way it is now, people. So 100%, it's about more women, more diverse voices, and getting more people around into leadership positions. And I think audio can really,
And
really
age too,
help.
as you bring up, right? Like,
100%.
yeah. Yep. Cool. Love it. I can't wait for your public podcast and all your things.
Someday.
Nora, you want to take us home with the final question?
Yes. The final question we ask all of our guests is if you had a private podcast with your life's ramblings, what would it be called?
Okay, so I'm an avid listener, so I did prepare. I'm not off the guard. I have two, actually. One is I wanted to do like riding a bike, ... And
Ooh,
right, because life is like
Love
riding a
that.
bike, right? You got hills, you got valleys, it's fun, it's shitty, right? You got all of that. And then my other one was, I couldn't decide, Tour de Marissa, because the Tour de France is probably like the most watched sporting event in the world. And it is full of drama, right? There's highs, there's lows, there's people being thrown out of the races. It's right. So again, kind of like your life of, I started off as a biologist and now I teach cycling and use podcasts. So it's,
I love it. We
the
can have
winding
listeners
road.
vote on which
Okay.
one you should
Totally.
should
Go
launch
for
with.
it.
Well,
Super
yeah,
fun.
super
I like
cute.
both of them. They're both cute. Yeah. I
Thank
like
you.
the one that has your name. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, but the riding a bike is pretty cute too.
I know, it's fun. I couldn't
Well,
decide.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love that you came with two. I don't think we've had
Yeah,
anyone had
I
two
know.
before,
I
so
like
that's
this.
good.
Very prepared.
Yeah, I definitely don't have two. I barely have one. No, but really though, thank you, Marissa. It was really fun hanging out with you. I love picking your brain on especially something that's like a relatively new launch for you. So we expect it to grow even more and definitely have you on for where you're at now, right? We're going to have to do some of those recap episodes or something.
I love that.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us today. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
we'll keep us posted on everything.
Thank you so much for everything y'all do and keep putting out these awesome episodes.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.